This is the FreeBody Podcast, a podcast for every body. Join us as we share the body stories of folks from all walks of life and deep dive into how we can turn to movement, creativity, and connection to heal while navigating a wounded world. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and subscribe to us on YouTube at FreeBody Podcast. Please share us with a friend, rate, and review. Thank you for being here. Welcome. So glad you're here. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, just give us a little intro. Tell us about yourself, your name, and what you're up to these days.
Thank you. My name is Marianna. Marianna McClellan, and these days I have a background in theater, and I have been a movement teacher. I teach body intelligence movement, which I got trained in. I had been practicing before I was sick, which we'll talk about, but got trained to teach this like in the year after my recovery.
Oh, wow.
And I've been doing that. I also am working on a experimental theater piece, physical theater piece.
Oh, cool.
That's in development and will be performed at some point soon.
Amazing. Great.
And I home organize. I help people who have hoarded spaces like declutter their spaces. So that has been actually like a very surprising part of my life that I find I don't know, a lot of like catharsis through other people.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
And what a gift to give people too. Like that's, I think of folks I know, and like that's the hardest thing is sometimes just getting it together to organize, get rid of things. Like that's amazing.
Yeah,
clearing out,
and it's like such a sideways like therapy because you're just dealing with stuff. You don't have to talk about anything else, just stuff. But you know, I work with people who are towards the end of their life and are doing. They don't call it like death clearings, but that's what they're doing.
Right.
We're going through pieces of paper, and it is about the process. It's not just about them having less stuff, you know. So that has been. I love the sideways.
I love the sideways.
Yeah.
It's a great quote. I want to take that. That's amazing. I love that, and we'll get more into that.
Yeah.
But yes, I always like to start our conversations with this question of an early significant body memory that you have that comes to mind that you'd like to share, and how you see it like unfolding or shaping yourself as you move forward.
Yeah. I think like I wish I had a simple like one moment, you know, but because I'm just constantly analyzing and making connections about this led to this, and this is why, that I feel like my body memories are of me as a young kid, very shy, joining this dance group class, you know. After school, like after PS3, we would meet with this young woman who is a dance teacher who looked like 12 years old, but she was like in her late 20s, 30s. And we would meet in Crunch gym like nearby, and we were called Crunch Kids. And we like
so cute.
We like really, I mean, it was like, I think it saved my life as a child to be involved in creative work with my body, specifically like feeling very shy and having a lot of stuff going on at home and not really being able to talk about it or express it. And throughout my childhood and adolescence, but having dance, and not just like ballet dance, but like very creative, like where you could like look as weird as you could possibly look and find freedom in just kind of making fun of everything in this like light, creative way was I think like, again, it's not like, one image or one experience, but it was that sparked a certain evolution. And I do remember it leaving my life and the effect it had on my body and on my, like, I think it was like going through puberty and stopping dancing and having even more stuff going on at home, which I think I'll probably get into just because like I feel like it's all related.
That's
but,
a lot. That's a lot. So you stopped
dancing around puberty, around what, age 12?
Yeah.
13?
13, 14, because I went to LaGuardia High School.
Oh, uh-huh.
And
For acting?
For acting.
Okay. And they didn't do a lot of...
They did some movement stuff, but honestly, it was so easy to check out and like smoke weed, like get high before school and take like a massage class, and that was like your gym. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that, and then like you do the thing, but I just like, I see myself, if I look at pictures of that point in my life, I see like this self that just became disconnected, and then there's been a whole other journey to get reconnected to this. Like, it's not just about youth and flexibility and this, but it's like this kind of like expression through the body that left clearly, because I was like, became like a hunchback with back problems and pale and gaunt and like, you know, you can see it's evident when you look at pictures, to me at least.
Well, yeah, I immediately want to know about that journey.
I know. I mean, I want to talk about it clearly because I'm here, and but it's all related to my mother.
Oh,
but,
of course. I mean, everything is mother and father, ancestors.
And
you know.
poor mom, because she really gets it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my dad had a ton to do with it, but But she did have a drug addiction problem. Okay. So she was doing heroin, which was like a big one for those developmental years, for like my like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then got clean when I was 14. Wow. So, but I was living with secrecy and anxiety and fear and constantly thinking that she was gonna die, like excuse me, like just really I think it was, if I pinpointed, it was just I was hiding, you know, like I was hiding in myself. I was couldn't be honest. I couldn't be honest with like any of my friends or anyone that I socialized with. I don't even remember talking about it with my brother, like at the time. So it was, or my dad, you know. It was this thing that, and my dad and my mom had been separated, so it was like living these two kind of different lives.
Yeah.
Like one half of the week with one parent and the other half with my dad, with the other parent. But she was just a beautiful, like creative, wonderful human, and also very destructive. Yeah. Like it has taken me, and it continues to take me a long time to reframe her existence, to say like she is this and that, and both things are true
at the same time. Yeah,
it's hard to hold that, but it's the, you know. So I think that this, like the significance of this series of events or way of being with my mom affected the rest of my entire life.
I mean, I'm sure it did. Yeah. Oh, I'm curious, like, while you were in high school, obviously all of this is happening, which is a lot for any child to be going through. And at 14, you said she got clean too. So,
but she got clean off of heroin. I see. But she never went the whole sober route. She was like smoking pot. She was like medicate. She had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder at some point in her life, but she was like, oh, everyone was diagnosed with that.
A lot of women are.
A lot of women. I know.
They think it might be ADHD.
I know. It's like, who knows? Who knows? But she's been like medicated and this and that. Yeah. So it's like there was always the fear had never left.
Right. So were you aware when you were smaller and you were doing all this movement and you could feel it like working and it was like helping your life, and then LaGuardia happens and you're still doing art, right? You're still like doing theater and some kind of movement, but the lack of dance, were you aware that was something you were missing at the time, or was it not a conscious?
No, I was like, I don't want to deal with that. I was like, I don't want to be a dancer because I don't want to have to deal with my body. I see. I think that's how it was. Like, I don't want to have to deal with this changing body. It makes me feel like an idiot to dance. It makes me feel, like, I think if you're playing a role that someone has given you, there's less creativity. For me, there's less exploration. There's less, and like what we were doing in the dance class was like, make up a character, which is in some acting training and some acting programs for sure. But if you're more working on like scene study, where you're working one scene all semester and you're like you're playing like Laura from the Glass Menagerie
Right.
for like an entire semester or whatever it
Right.
is. Like you're working in this confinement that is safe.
Right. Right.
And
you're in the vessel.
yeah.
You're not taking the risks of making something new yourself necessarily. Although we are.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting thing. It's different.
You can work your way back. For me, it's like, let me work my way back to understanding that that's what it is or can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And working like the work I do now is like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be in like the plays I was in before, but I'm going to make some weird shit.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fun for me.
Right.
And I hope other people get something from it.
Right.
You know?
I'm curious about this. Like, it's such a huge transition to go into high school, especially like LaGuardia. I went to LAXA in LA, which is like a sister school basically to LaGuardia. So another arts. I was in theater as well. And, you know, it's when you start to think of creativity, or I wouldn't even think of it as creativity, or like I had trouble calling myself an artist for a long time. And I think a lot of actors struggle with that. It's so interesting.
And
because it's like we're not necessarily writing the dialogue or the story,
right,
but we are bringing it to life.
Oh, we're only using our
entire being.
It's
Exactly.
funny because, like, I had a teacher in college being like, the only artists are playwrights, and I'm like,
what?
Fuck that.
It's crazy to me. Yeah,
but also if you're treated like, I mean, a lot of directors will treat you like that. A lot of environments, like. If you're
a prop that talks,
and like
moves.
I think like later in my theater years, I've been like more not confrontational, but asking questions in the table read and like being like talking to the director, like I'm challenging that. 'Cause what if this?
Yeah,
and people are like, oh, she's ballsy, you know, like
and creative.
Yeah, and I'm just like, no, this is the conversation, right? This is what it's about. We're all making something together. Yes, but not everyone feels like that's the role 100%. Or that's the job, you know.
So like in high school, was there anything that you were doing, maybe physically or maybe it's related to your body, that was giving you like any resourcing that you did in high school, or was it just not?
I mean, like, I wasn't totally, again, it's like I grew up we were like getting high and drunk every weekend. Right. We were just like,
so and weirdly, right? Like,
I know.
Gabor Mate would say,
right?
That kept you alive.
Yeah.
That's a type of survival, right?
Sure. Thank you, Gabor. Yeah.
Thank you, Gabor. Yes. Reaching for that is for a reason, right?
Yeah.
We're reaching for it because there's often pain there or something. So,
and like just escapism and wanting to be with my friends and not, and, you know, but it wasn't like, I don't think I ever had like a drug alcohol problem to the extent that I was like chasing that. Yeah. But it was a way to just like socialize and get silly with my friends and like, you know, and it's just kind of like what a lot of people did. Yeah. You know, whatever that excuse is.
Growing up in New York City.
I know, growing up. But I will say that I had went to a chiropractor
in high school.
In high school. Because my dad saw this doctor that he's like, I think you would benefit from this. I think it was a cult. Like, they all had shaved heads. Okay. I know, I'm like, what? I think chiropractors do just often have shaved heads. I don't know what that's about.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
But it was definitely like, you
Maybe
need to come.
Naturopath. No, I'm not sure.
I don't know. No, it's fine. But I don't know. They were like, you should come 3 times a week. It was a very intensive program.
Why did your father recommend this?
Because I had like back pain.
Okay.
Also, I was living between my mom's house and my dad's house. We still had to carry textbooks everywhere. Like it was like I was like a bag lady for years.
Tell me more about your back pain.
Okay, so it's like cervical. They were like it was mostly cervical spine and slight scoliosis, but just slight, and then like a tilt of the hip, like a whatever. I still have all those things. Yeah. It's just now I've found a different angle, and I'm never trying to get symmetrical because I just don't think that's a thing.
Right.
So
a lot of us aren't symmetrical.
And I don't think anyone is, but some of us are less.
Right.
But the back, I think I was always like it was like I was always going to doctors or dentists. I also had terrible teeth. My friends would be like, we'd get high after school and then be like, gotta go to the doctor. Like like all of high school. I feel like that's like I just genetically had, you know, terrible teeth and root canals starting from age 9 till whatever. I have crowns everywhere. And the chiropractor was like a way of like, oh, but I didn't connect. And I still don't know why my back was messed up. You know, I think, what do you
think? Yeah, tell me.
It's because I was dealing with the stress of my mom, the stress of living in 2 different homes and feeling very chaotic growing up in New York City, growing up in the East Village where I always felt like kind of under attack, getting hit on since I was 13 years old. Like my system was on totally overdrive, like for a very long time, but I didn't know it, nor would I have, nor if somebody had like said, this could be related to the, you know, I wonder if that had been a conversation, but it always seemed to be like, okay, well, let's just attack the problem. The problem is the bones. The problem is the muscles that are connected to the bones. But like it, and I still to this day, after the work and research, I don't know what angle do you hit it at? Like, do you hit it from the mind? Do you hit it from the body? Hit it is like a very, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it
all
do
of
it all.
It.
Yeah.
You do it all, but in what, you know, it's like,
what
it's
order?
Still, what's the soup? Like what is, and it's, I think I'll spend years like for myself answering that. And then hopefully like, again, it's like the desire is always to like share what any sort of revelation, if it's helpful for somebody else, it's like worth the pain. Yeah. It's worth the whatever.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's very powerful though, too. Like as a real, like it is that pain can be such a huge gift when you think of it that way, as sort of like hard as it can be in the moment. Yeah. When you're going through the pain. Right. We are always like, I have arthritis, and anytime I have a flare up, these days, you know, it used to just, it would just knock me out. These days, it's a conversation where I'm like, okay, well, what is this pain telling me? Why is it here? But there was nothing like that when I was growing up. Yeah. There was no kind of integration of your emotional life, your stress based on your physical symptoms. Right. And sometimes it's, I think sometimes it is caused by, maybe it is caused by physical injury, like an actual acute trauma to the body, physical body. But sometimes it's something invisible and emotional, and that sets off a chain reaction in our bodies for all of these hormones to be blasted off, and that affects our health because our hormones are connected to our immune system, and you know. Yeah. So it all makes sense when you think about it as one complete system. Yeah. Rather than different departments that aren't connected to each other. Totally. You know. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
I just wish more people were trained in all areas.
Me too.
Because a lot of people are like, yep, that's where it ends for me. That's where my knowledge or my advice has to end. Right. Even if I believe other things, it's just the trainings aren't really like in conversation as much as...
They often aren't. Yeah. And it takes people who go through these really huge events in their lives that start to realize, like, have to do the research themselves and make those connections. Yeah. Again, can be a gift for something that's really hard, but really hard to go through nonetheless. Yes. So when did the back pain start to alleviate for you?
It never did.
Okay.
So then I started doing yoga after college, I would say, like in college, but then after I went to Yoga to the People. Yeah. I actually heard someone else, the other podcast I listened to. Yeah. Someone talked about that, and I like the owner, whatever. I was like my third yoga class. He's like, "You're gonna be a yoga teacher," and I was like, "Oh, really?" And like went through some informal training, which was so stupid.
Through Yoga to the People.
Yeah, before they had a training program. This was like back in the day in St. Mark's, and they like put me. There was like one sweaty picture that they took of me, and they put it without my permission on the front of the thing.
This drives me crazy.
And like, you know, all the stuff that came out about it. But I had a really weird experience too, but I won't get into that. It was nothing like terrible happened, but it was like a huge red flag that I was like, I have to stop going there. Yeah. And then I was like, I'm not gonna, even though I think it is very natural for people who are interested in that kind of work and are performers. They're like, I can get up in front of a class and tell them what to do. Yeah. But then you get a lot of that in New York City and maybe other places where you're like, oh, you're performing teacher. Right. You know, like, you know how to play teacher. Yeah, cool. Am I safe? Yeah. So I felt like that was happening in a lot of those classes. And then kind of just like pulled away from that desire, if that was even a desire at first, but then read a book called Healing Back Pain by Dr. Sarno. Do you know this?
I don't.
Some actor recommended it to me he was just like, it's all in your head, basically.
Oh, right.
And I was like, well, first of all, I think it's more complicated than that. But this guy, essentially, I'm totally botching Dr. Sarno, but he was like, massage, exercise, all that stuff isn't actually addressing the issue. Which he has a point. You know, he was a person and maybe one of the first, not first, but he was early on and like there's mind-body connection. Your back pain is your repressed anger, it's your repressed emotion. So of course, and I was like, oh my God, I think he's right. Yeah. Like, I think this is a lot of repression and a lot of like, just so much anger I had not tapped into. Yeah. And still am tapping. I have a well of anger that I am so excited about, but not everyone around me is excited, not my loved ones. Yeah. Like, but
anger can be so creative. Yeah. When you like figure out how to channel that beast, it's like such a channel of creation, I find. It's scary though, because anger for many of us is like often not a feeling, especially for women or femme presenting people, like not a feeling that you're like allowed, quote unquote, to feel as a lady. Right. Totally. So there's this like internalized conditioning, I think a lot of us experience where this is what Gabor says, so many women have autoimmune illness. It's because of this repression in our society, what we do to women. I know. I mean, there's a whole like, when we get to the so many questions I have about people's theories about autoimmune stuff and when I took an anatomy class. Do you know Tom Myers? I don't. He is like the fascia guy. Oh, okay. We love fascia. He's like trained with Ida Rolf, like back in the day, but has since really furthered the research in fascia and has done cadaver dissections. Yes, and really, I must know who this. You must know who he is, and if you don't, it's like he's definitely he's on. I feel like he's the Gabor of the body stuff. Okay. Versus like he understands the connection, but he's not specializing in like he's not a psychoanalyst. Right. He's not a talk therapist. He's not going to go that direction. But he thinks the body is the smartest. Yeah. And the most responsive. Yep. And if you get at that with an awareness of the other stuff, you can, Yes. So but he described autoimmune as like having your foot on the brakes and your foot on the accelerator for too long, both. And I was like, wow. I don't know if really somebody else has said that too, but I was like, yeah, I feel that. Yeah, that really resonates. Also, the other, because I just took this workshop with him, so I'm like, the other thing he said was the job of the immune system is to identify self. So I love that. I was like, did my body have an identity crisis? Like, am I having an identity crisis now? Like, did it jumpstart this like total identity crisis that I seem to be in as a result? So, I mean, that's a core tenet of like, I keep bringing up Gabor, but you know who he is. The authenticity versus attachment. Yeah. Okay. Say that again. Concept. Authenticity versus attachment. So the idea is that when we're children, these are two basic survival needs that all human beings have. Nature has given us these needs. Like no one escapes from needing attachment or needing authenticity. Because like if someone's not get connected to their gut instinct in the middle of nature, like how long are they going to last in the woods, right? And how long are you going to last in the woods by yourself? Hence attachment. So when you're a child, right, what's the most important or like the scariest situation? Is it losing the sense of your authenticity? Or is it your sense of attachment? Right. Attachment always wins. So, like, if your parent has a problem with you throwing a tantrum and is telling you to stop, like, you're probably going to try to stop and not feel that thing. That suddenly becomes okay because it's threatening your relationship, that sense of attachment. But what you are doing is you are suppressing, repressing your authentic self. And so I tend to think that, like, when we talk about identity crises, it's like, it's not, I think it's like we have been disconnected from our authenticity for so long that once you get poked enough where you realize that that's been happening, it's like, I've been doing this unconsciously for how many, and it just becomes this it can reshape your whole reality, because you realize the perceptions you had don't necessarily need to be true, or don't, just because you see something a certain way doesn't mean it is that way.
Yeah.
And you know, we have choice when we think we don't have choice in situations a lot of the time.
I mean, absolutely. And then when you start to unravel it, it's like you don't know what's real for a long time.
Right.
The body, like
what you can trust.
And then in the whole recovery process of Guillain-Barré, and I'll get into, I feel like I need to,
We're getting there.
Wanting to like tap into that, but not jump the gun.
Yeah.
But pain, when the nerves recover, they cause excruciating pain.
Right.
So to then wrap your mind around this is good, pain is good.
Yeah.
Is a very fucked up thing.
Yeah.
And then it's just another layer of confusion of like what's up, what's down in the whole unraveling of authenticity and self-identity and all that.
Because we spend our whole lives in this society anyway running from pain.
Yeah.
We're like, that's uncomfortable. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a pill for that. I'm going to get this thing. I'm going to do this thing. I'll buy this thing, and then maybe I won't feel the pain.
Yeah.
And it's so human nature, because pain to our central nervous system means danger, which means death.
Right.
And like our bodies haven't evolved to realize that like the same threats that existed for us when we were living in the wilderness don't exist for us anymore.
Right.
And we don't need to be living in that survival place anymore.
Right. But we are.
And it's all unconscious, and it's nobody's fault.
Yeah.
It's like, this is just like, we're just starting like within the last 30 years or so to really, in the West anyway, this is all information that they've known in the East for thousands and thousands of years. But in the West, we're starting to like, oh yeah, our hormones do have something to do with our immune system, which has something to do with our emotions, which has something to, you know, all of it connecting like that way that it does.
It's like we have like psychological tigers that we're running from every single day versus...
Exactly. Yep. I had a friend who was like, feelings, when the feelings would like come up or they would be triggered, they're like, the bears are coming. Yeah. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Okay. So yoga, just to quickly dip back, that started to alleviate the back pain, and you started reading about it, investigating.
Yeah.
Yes.
But never like totally, just like chipping away.
Yeah.
There was no large revelations. There'd be momentary revelations, but just chipping away. And then I started like, you know, doing plays and theater and a film here and there. And like, then I got connected during a play to my friend Brenna Paluggi, who is the person who's developed the body intelligence.
Okay.
But she at some point, she was like, I want to start a physical theater company. Will you come along?
Oh, that's so cool.
And we started warming up in the way that she teaches. And in the way she's like, I'm going to give everyone a class, we're going to train as a company. And the kind of work we were doing was based in Alan Wayne work, which is what she learned at Yale.
Yeah.
And so it's like very repetitive, circular, durational exercises. You're in exercises for a long time, and it's kind of gently eroding away fascial adhesions you're just witnessing the body's shifting and sometimes intense sensation.
Yeah.
So you're like in it for a while, and you're like, this is very intense, it's painful, and then it changes, and then that changes, and that changes. So to
that's so great.
Be present with the like what could be unfamiliar and maybe scary for a second sensations in the body. You're also you're releasing as you're conditioning the body. So and you're vocally releasing, and so you're just like, it's like you're like a wild animal.
It's amazing.
And then you're doing like improv with your so I was like, oh my God, I'm back to my body the way I used to be. Like I'm finding freedom. I'm finding like more movement. I'm finding expression. And it was like I felt like my relationship to my body felt more like it did when I was a kid. Wow. And then cut to a couple years later, I got sick, but you know, so
you found this incredible work, and it was going so well. Did you still have, I'm just tracking everything, did you still have back pain at this time? Okay.
Always. I mean, it's just chronic, but it's not constant. Yeah. It's just, but there's like flare-ups.
Yep.
And
have you figured out the triggers yet of the flare-ups?
Sometimes they are physical triggers, not like if I ride my bike a lot, I'm gonna, my like traps are like just jacked.
Yeah.
They're just like, and like angry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think I ride with really good alignment. I think my bike is also a piece of shit. And like, it's not one of those like light speedy bikes. It weighs a ton.
clunker.
Yeah, it's a clunker, but no one steals it.
That's good. That's helpful.
So ugly.
Yeah.
But I'm still like, when do I get a flare up? It's like, I'm trying to, how do I physically engage and exhaust myself in the way that I love to do and not actually wear and tear my body down to nothing.
Right.
And I don't know. I'm still
balance.
working on the balance.
Did anything else before we get into
what happened?
And this is post-pandemic that this all happened too.
Yes.
So I'm wondering.
Yeah.
My thought immediately goes to, what happened during the pandemic for you?
Oh my God.
And like, how did that affect your body, your
Totally.
relationship to your body, and where you were at?
I mean, I think like everyone had a wild time, but I went through a breakup of a 6-year relationship, and then I was like, I'm single. And even though it was the pandemic, like that summer that everyone was getting slutty, I was doing that. And it was really fun. But like, it was like, I was staying up till like 4 a.m. And I was like, what am I doing? Am I a child?
Wild time. Yeah.
And so then I did plays for like, I did one play that was on tour for 5 months, and it was great. And I felt wonderful. And then I felt so broke after not, theater, you can't live. You can't
live.
And you make people sick, theater.
Yeah.
But then I had a little break, and then another show right after, so I couldn't get other work that paid me more. I had to just figure out how to be broke for like almost a year doing shows. Boy. And I was like,
were you stressed?
I was very stressed.
Sounds stressful. Yeah.
And then right after, I was like, oh my God, I'm so broke. Like, how do I make this work? And that led to, and then I was like in kind of a new relationship, but it was long distance, and that was challenging. And then my mother plays a huge role in this, because she had moved upstate, like New Yorker through and through, but had moved upstate like maybe a year before the pandemic. Okay. Not a driver.
Oh,
lived with her partner of a million years, but they never lived together.
Wow.
They both have their things. And she was not well. And I was trying to get her to go to the doctor in any way that I could. I made the appointment. She wouldn't go. He couldn't make her go either. She was not mentally, she's always been like I said of her, she's always been a very creative and outside the bubble kind of thinker. Yeah. But she was going further and further away from reality, and I didn't really know how, and I had so much, just so much residual anger towards her. Yeah. Even though I loved her, and even though I was there for her, I had to take care, so it's like if we have a conversation and it kind of like went off, I would just get angry and get off the phone, or just kind of cut it off. Not in an angry way, but just protective, in a protective way. Yeah. But she was stressing me out to the point of like, I don't know how to help you. I don't know how to help. And then it had led to then her partner got into a car accident, so they didn't have a car. It was just a lot of little yeah. And then I got sick. Like it was like her incident, like that incident happened just before I got COVID.
Yes, right. Because okay, so you got COVID, and what year are we on right now?
This is the end of 2022.
End of 2022. Okay, so vaccinations have happened already.
Yeah, I've had all the vaccinations.
And you got through that whole period without getting COVID,
no,
right?
I got
or
COVID
you did,
already.
You had it already.
I had COVID maybe like once or twice. I think I had it very early on, totally lost my sense of smell. Yeah. And then maybe had it one other time. I can't even remember it. But I was not new to COVID. Okay, got it. I had all the vaccinations.
So this might have been the third time you got it? Okay. And so...
he came to visit me, Jess. He was living in Baltimore, finishing law school, and we met while I was doing a show in Baltimore, but we actually knew each other like 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And just like saw each other in the street and didn't know each other well. But anyway, so we were like trying out to see if this is possible. I'm like, do we want to do an open relationship? He gives me COVID.
Guess not.
And then I'm hospitalized.
I guess I'm not. Yeah.
But it was a really kind of funny series of events where he gave me COVID, and I wasn't even that sick at first. I was like, oh, well, you have COVID now, because he had it first. And I was like, I'll quarantine. And I did like this play workshop on Zoom. I zoomed in. And then 2 days later, I started to get extremely nauseous. I slipped on the way to the bathroom, running to vomit, and threw out my back.
Oh no!
And I think it was unrelated, but it was.
But that's interesting.
A series of like events of like the nausea, throwing out the back, and then really weird nerve pain throughout my legs, my feet, then my stomach, my hands, my mouth.
Can you tell me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to make you talk about
the
details.
I
but
love
like nerve pain. Can you describe?
Okay. So it was very specific. It was like tingly, you know, but it was beyond any other tingly I've ever felt. It actually felt it in my hip flexors first, because I had a sleepless night of feeling this gnawing pain. It was gnawing is the best word to describe it. Yep. Tingling, buzzing, like a deep ache, or almost like a full body or a specific like muscle joint pain, nausea.
Wow.
In the the muscle itself.
Yes.
But it did feel like an eating away. And so I was like, it kept me up all night. And then it just progressed. I couldn't keep anything down. I couldn't eat. I was throwing up all week. I was getting weaker and weaker. I was already having trouble because I'd just thrown out my back, like getting down to the bathroom to vomit, getting back up. Jess was assisting me. Yeah.
Were you you were not in the hospital yet?
This was like a solid week of like into the depths of the darkest hell, because I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And I didn't know how much was in my head, because something we didn't talk about is that but we did talk about it as like related to like what's up and what's down. I never know how sick I am. I never know if this like lump on my neck is just like because I had a cold and I have an inflamed, or if I have cancer. And I've just been always hypochondriac circle. Okay. Of like, I'm feeling a weird sensation. What is that?
So you sort of you weren't like fully trusting what you were feeling.
Yeah. I was talking to a lot of other people that had maybe had some weird nerve tingling during their COVID experience. So I was like, oh, maybe this is like the kind of the strain that I have.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's so scary to not know.
It was very scary. And I think, and then then we eventually went to the hospital. It was like Christmas. Yeah, it was Christmas. And and my partner was just we had just had an uncomfortable potential open relationship conversation, and then he was like carrying me to the bathroom and like waiting on me and just being there for me. And then first trip to the ER, I was like, I don't know what's going on. I have weird sensation. I have COVID. I might be really dehydrated. I haven't been able to take in anything for a week. They gave me an IV, and the guy was like, well, you should be good to go. And I was like, are you sure? Because I have some really strange sensation. And he's like,
so mad.
I think you'll feel better after the IV. Okay, have a good night. And then we went home. I felt maybe a little more awake, you know?
Yeah.
And the next day, I was still not feeling better. And my lips were so dry and chapped. And Jess had bought some chapstick for me. And I went to go put it on and put my lips together. And I was like, my face isn't moving the way it should move. And I was like, and I looked at, I was like, bring me a mirror. It was very dramatic, but I was like, looked at my face and I was like, my smile is uneven. Like, this is did I have a stroke was my first thought. Yeah. And then we're researching, but we calmly called the ER back and we're like, we're coming back. There's been some changes. Same ER doctor was there. And he was like, what happened? And I was like, you didn't believe me the first time is what happened.
His name.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had his name.
Drop his name.
I could probably find it. I'm sure he feels bad, and I hope he remembers it for the rest of his
I hope
career.
he does. I hope it was a teachable moment for this
100%.
person. Man. Yeah.
For this man.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't think you had a stroke, but we're going to quickly code blue you and get you a CAT scan.
Holy.
And then, like, you know, it was like we're
going to check this out.
Check it out. I didn't have a stroke. Then they were getting a hunch that it could be, they didn't really say Guillain-Barré, but I think he had that in his mind. He watched me walk. And at that point, I was like, when I left the apartment for that time, I couldn't lift my legs. Like, it's like literally as if you had strings, like if you wore a marionette, strings are just cut.
Yeah.
And so it was like such a specific, I guess like the awareness that I want people to have is like they're feeling any of these things, like go to the hospital right away. Like time is of the essence because once I finally was transferred to a neurology department and they did a full body hour-and-a-half MRI.
In the little tube thing?
Yeah, where it's like, you're just, I was like, I'm dissociating because I can't be in this physical body.
Yeah.
Like, fully. I was like, oh, this is what dissociation is for. Like, thank you for this ability to leave.
Yeah.
And then spinal tap.
Oh.
And then they could, from the blood-brain barrier, and I don't really know what they're looking for, but in the MRI, it's like all the nerves are lit up because what Guillain-Barré is the immune system. It's a sudden response. So there's an invader, which for my case, it was COVID. For other people, it could be a flu shot. It could be some bacteria from like food poisoning.
Wow.
It could be any number of things. It's a foreign invader. The immune system thinks that instead of the foreign that your own nervous system, peripheral nervous system, is the foreign invader.
Right.
So then it just starts eating away at the peripheral nervous system very quickly. And what they give you to stop it is there's 2 different treatments, but the first one and the less invasive one is like immunoglobulin therapy, which is
globulin therapy. We're gonna word of the day.
I know, it's really second guess myself every time I say it, but it is an IV infusion for 5 days, which it gives you new antibodies and it stops the progression of the GBS. But the only way to heal is not your nerves recover 1 millimeter a day by themselves. You can't really do anything. Wow. You just have to wait.
But it does every time come back if you stop it from eroding enough.
What does come back?
The like
nerves?
your peripheral nerve endings.
Well, everyone has different recoveries. Okay. So the mystery, GBS is mysterious. Like no one, either not enough research has been done or it's just that kooky that like no one can pin it down. But there's all these different sparks. There's then all these different ways of recovering and timelines. And some people I've talked to like still have weird sensation in different parts of their body. Some people have braces on their legs still and will for the rest of their lives. Not everyone's face is fully paralyzed, but mine was. That's like a specific kind. Wow. And so when the nerves recover on my left side, it was completely like within a week it started to come back. Oh wow. That's and then fast. It was like, and I was like, oh wow. And the right side was like months and months and months. And then it started to come back, but the longer, similar to Bell's palsy, the longer it takes to come back into play, the more kooky, again, Guillain-Barré is so kooky, but it grows back a little bit like with crossed wires. Oh. So it's called synkinesis. And
synkinesis, another great word of the day.
I know, and I wish Sarah, this is a side note, but Sarah Rule has a book called Smile.
Yes.
She had Bell's palsy for 10 years, and her book is about her recovery and her slow recovery. And she also had synkinesis, which is basically like, and it's kind of cute too, because the nerve, it's a cute idea when it's like the nerve is regrowing, the seventh cranial nerve, it's regrowing, and it's not strong enough, so it enlists other guys to help them, like, can you help me out? Can you help me out? And then, but from that, then like the eye will close when you smile, or like other things start to
compensate. It's like other things are compensating, but because of that compensation, not everything is as it was before.
Not everything is as it was, because things are being engaged that aren't supposed to engage. Oh,
so like interesting. Because the nerve's coming from somewhere else.
Right. Well, the nerve is yes.
I don't know.
Like, what? The nerve is growing back, and it's like engaging other things, because those other things were trying to help.
And are they other nerves that are trying to help? Like the nerve is like, help me out, fellow nerves. Right. And another nerve comes down and like helps it.
Yes. And those engage
so that
different
other
muscles.
Right. So it's like connecting it even to like more nerves in the face.
Yeah. I'm
so
totally
interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And you're like, that's so sweet that the body's trying to like help out the weaker ones.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, my face is not doing what I wanted to
And
do.
I imagine, like, just to take a beat, as an actor going through this, if you have anything you want to share about that experience. Yeah.
I mean, it's so, like, again, identity crisis.
Oh my God.
Sarah Ruhl, which I got her book in the hospital because I had heard about it months before I got sick, and it had come out.
Weird.
And as soon as I lost my smile, I was like, called my friend, and I was like, give me the book. I was like, bring it to my bedside. But I listened to the audio version because she reads it herself, and I love that. Yeah. And I also couldn't close my eyes fully. Mm-hmm. Like, so everything was blurry. But I had this knowledge that this recovery might not be full. Yeah. That this recovery might take a long time. Mm-hmm. And there was something kind of very zen, and I felt very seen, and I had her with me, and like that was such a beautiful example of someone else's story. And you know, it took her 10 years to write it, and to form these questions and thoughts and observations about it. But I was like, okay, like it's gonna be okay. It might not get fully better, but like I'm gonna be okay. I might go through something. I might be depressed. I might, and it's gone through so many different waves, because I think the clarity you have when being sick, when being close to death, is beautiful. Yeah, it's like, I miss that. Mm-hmm. I miss and in those moments I was like, I am not my face. Like, I am not, I have like gorgeous friends. I have this partner by my side. I am a creative person. I'm not my face. And then the re-entry, I was like, I don't know who I am. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I don't know how to interact with the world. I don't know how to control the world's interaction with me. I can't. Right. But I want to. Right. And so it's been mental gymnastics, just constantly being like, do I have a place in this world that I wanted to have a place in for so long, that I've put energy into having a place in? And then I'm like, of course I have a place, because fuck that. Like, who gets to say that? And then at the same time, I'm like, that's too exhausting to try to have a place. I need to take a step back. Mm-hmm. So it's a constant, like, who gets to say that? Like, who am I even talking to when I say that?
It's a good question. Who are you talking to?
I don't know.
I had a teacher healer friend of mine, Yarrow, would often ask us, like, who are you co-creating with? Yeah. Like, who's in your head? And the easy way to do it is like when you're posting on social media, you know, like, who, if I'm hesitating, who am I thinking about saying this? That's like in here rent free, you know.
We have a whole bus. Yeah. A whole bus load of people.
Yeah. A clown car.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like, like if I ask that question, I'm like, it's this friend that I've had for forever. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm being a judgmental asshole. Like, she's not actually a judgmental asshole. I don't know why I'm assigning it to her.
Right. I'm like judging this person for judging me when they haven't judged me. I'm just judging them free,
totally.
You know. Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Being human and projecting. So cute.
So I'm trying to be really aware of that. Yeah. And really, it's hard. And part of the I am moving upstate to get a little, just check in with myself a little more and like maybe not live in this place that has done something to done something that I've loved, and I've just been on this buzzing energy with it for so long. Yeah. I wonder if I will get more perspective outside of it,
in some nature.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the brunt of it, right? Like, that's the whole point, is I feel like in any city, if there's access to nature, you can often like balance, figure out a way to balance stuff out. But I don't know about you, but for me, like, access to nature in this city feels so hard. I mean, the parks, I'm so grateful. I know I have the beautiful park, and it's great. It's like that kept us surviving through the pandemic. We like lived in that park.
Yeah.
And there's still something about, like, it's not out of the city. I'm still surrounded by noise. I'm still surrounded by city folk, which, you know, I grew up in the city. I love a city, but I grew up in LA, and that you have, like, you know, you go on hikes and you're like above the city. Yeah. You go into a place where it feels like there's so many pockets that don't feel like you're in the city at all there, that in the way here, at least without a car, it can be really difficult. And I think it's such an important part for, maybe not for everybody, but I think for many of us to like be able to hear bird song, see the sky, get some sunlight, hear the wind in the trees outside your window without having to walk through the city to get to the park, to get to the thing, and then walk home through the city, you know.
Yeah.
So I get it. That's really exciting.
Yeah, I am hoping, as you were talking, I was just thinking about the stints I did at a summer camp when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Where I would get back from that camp and people were like, oh my God, you're so healthy. You look I was like, what? And it was like a shock.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, I do look healthy. Yeah. Like, wow, I really needed a dose of the outdoors. Like, I'm excited for the, you know, whatever. And I can always come back.
You can. The city's not going anywhere.
I know.
So as you were recovering, let's take me through, like, how that went, how long your recovery, maybe it's over, it's ongoing, it's still in the middle.
Well, a significant part of this experience, again, back to my mother, was she was also hospitalized the same time I was in the ER the exact same time she was in the ER for a hip thing, right? Wow. She had dislocated, she broke her hip, and then she had dislocated her hip, and then, but it kind of finally got her to go to a doctor.
Yeah.
And then through a couple different experience, like I think she was then hospitalized another time like she just kept on like dislocating her hip, but then they were like, oh, we drained her lung, and she has, we think, very late stage cancer. Oof. So this was like, we think, well, at that time it was like, oh my God. I got this news from her, and I always knew that he was going to call me and tell me she died or she was sick. Like, I just, you know, like, I've been having this fantasy since I was 10 years old.
Right.
I was like, that he's going to be the one to call me with bad news. And I just, to be like, so I had just gotten home myself from the rehab center, and I was not in good shape. I had lost 40 pounds.
Wow. And how long were you in the rehab center?
A month.
Okay.
The hospital for a week, and then the rehab center for 3 weeks, but it was in the same, on the same floor.
Okay.
And being in a hospital, you are like, you're just an animal. You're just, it's rough, and some of the nurses are wonderful, and some
don't want to be there.
Yeah. Don't want to do, like, it's awful.
Yeah.
And yeah, just makes all the difference when you, whatever, the system, whatever, they're dealing with a lot. So it's like, I'm never going to be like that one nurse, but there were some nurses that made it a lot harder.
Yeah.
And then I get home, I can barely stand like, my blood pressure was so off that every time I stood up, I either fainted or browned out. And I was really having trouble eating, just keeping food down and having any appetite. And then it's funny, in this workshop, Tom Meyer's workshop, he was talking about the nerves being like pesky little kids, and that the mother is the fat. The myelin around the nerves is made of fat. So we kind of so I didn't know this then.
Either, yeah.
But in order for my nerves to heal and to get that myelination back, I needed fat.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do what was necessary. Eventually, my mom, we got the news that she never actually went through a full, like, I think she did a CAT scan, but she didn't ever get a biopsy. They're like, it's metastasized, it's in her spine, it's in her liver, it's in her lungs, it's everywhere. Yeah. And if we did a biopsy, we could find out what kind of cancer. But she was a heavy smoker forever and just chain smoked, like, in her bed till she died. So I'm assuming it was lung cancer. Yeah. And I'm assuming also that it spread to her brain, because that is very common for lung cancer. And she was not there, for months. When I finally was well enough to go visit her, and the process of these 2 months or 3 months that I had at home when I knew my mom was dying, but I couldn't go see her yet. The nerve pain that I was feeling. I mean, the worst part of Guillain-Barré for me was the firing of the nerves, and it was like electrically probing, shocking, burning. The skin on my feet fell off. I don't know why. They don't know why. Oh, God. It was like I just was being born again in that way, and
from fire
went through being born from
forged in the fires.
Yeah. Wow. And just it was torture. Anything that you could wish upon in some.
Did they give you anything? Can you take anything for this?
Not until later on in the game. And there was one drug that changed my healing. Yeah. Which was like, it's like all those, I've never been on an antidepressant, anti-anxiety. I'd never gone there. But it is an antidepressant, anti-anxiety that also helps with nerve pain because it just dulls all the receptors. Yep. So it was duloxetine and Cymbalta's duloxetine's the generic name. Okay. And they're like, as a side effect, you might gain an appetite. Okay. And within 4 days, I was like, get me a BLT now. Yay. And I started eating fun. And it changed. I was like, it was night and day from like being so depleted and not being able to do the things I knew I had to do to heal, to like eating, like, I was like, I just wanted like blue cheese, bacon.
All the things you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
It was cool that the body then craves the thing that it knows it needs to heal. But so that then I started to have enough energy to walk or get up without like browning out, or that event, I can't remember exactly how it happened, but over the course of those 2 months. And it was like with Guillain-Barré, and I think a lot of people I've talked to, or some people have experienced, it's like you have one good day, and then like if it's a good day and you kind of push it, you have like 3 bad days.
You might pay for that. Yeah.
So it's just a wobbly journey. And the thing with my mom, I would say, like, the instant knowledge that I had when I was in the hospital and she was in the hospital was like, oh, I can't take care of her. And
that was that thought came up earlier in our conversation.
Yes. It was, I mean, it was like if someone was writing a thesis paper on my life up until then. Yeah. It was like, okay, and I don't believe in this necessarily, but if someone was like, you need to learn a lesson, and the lesson is like, take care of your shit. Yeah. And don't try to take care of other things and people that you can't. Yeah. Don't try to control other people.
We can't.
Yeah. And like, you can know that, but to actually viscerally experience
to embody, it's a whole other thing.
Yeah. And it was a kind of a poetic, beautiful, terrible thing that I was kind of like, I need to release this, whatever hold I have over my belief that I can control my mom or make her better. Right. And the anger that comes with it. Yeah. And then, I mean, the thing that, again, it's like, I don't wish this sickness upon myself or anyone, but I got to, when I finally did get to visit her, and be there for her, and having literally someone just having changed my diaper, I was like, I can do this for you. Yeah. In my state, I can sit with you. I can be there for you. I wasn't working yet. I wasn't back at work. I wasn't back in the swing of things. So even though it was very taxing for me to make these trips physically, like mentally and emotionally, like there was nothing else I was more prepared for.
Yeah, you had capacity to do it. Also, I wonder, like, because you had taken so much time to care for yourself and to recover, like what they say about filling your own cup before we can ever do anything for anyone else, I think is really true. Yeah. It's just impossible to give when you don't have anything to give.
Yeah. And to say my cup was full, like, it was getting full, but I was like...
half full, maybe.
Half full.
Glass half full.
I was really like... It was still a lot of... I think it hindered my recovery.
Sure.
Because I was so stressed, upset. I was like just crying all the time. Was it my own pain? Was it sadness of my saying goodbye to my mom? And but yeah, it's like I think the biggest fear that I had was that my mom would die and I would still be angry at her. Yeah. Or like it would like erupt in some psychotic break because I'd been so fearful of this thing. Yeah. But there was a piece that I felt in my ability to like love and be there in a way that I couldn't have predicted or expected.
Guillain-Barré, it's not fatal? Is it? It is not, right? So
okay, if you didn't get treated, it would be fatal.
Okay.
Like you would eventually, it would affect your breathing. You would stop breathing because it affects the muscles.
Right. Everything eventually, sort of like MS or
exactly.
ALS.
It is like a MS on crack. Like it is kind of like a really intense, wild, sped up, like eating away.
And the back and forth of it is a trip too. Yeah, that's really wild to me. For your mother to be going through the transition at this point, right after you sort of had your own transition, but were dealing with your mortality, I would say, in a different way, or maybe, an identity crisis, this sort of shedding of self and like who you think you are, I think is a version of a rebirth. Yeah. Right? For sure. And so you're just sort of like, I'm visualizing just this like phoenix sort of still rising from the ashes. Like again, the cup's not fully full yet. Totally. But like, just like being able to witness and hold for somebody else. I wonder if your capacity would have been the same to do that without the experiences, not just Guillain-Barré, but like all of your experiences, right? Prepare you for this moment. And I don't know, maybe you see differently. Maybe it was really this experience that gave you the ability to have the capacity to hold all of that, like that your brother wasn't able to. But
it's I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it was the accumulation, of course, but had I not like, I don't know. I feel like it was this, I think when you go through something like that and you understand the vulnerability of that moment I think that you see things differently. Like I saw my mom differently. I don't know if she could sense that I could see her differently and it made her feel so, I don't know. Yeah. I'm sure she felt, I do often think about this, like mirroring this, like this, like we passed each other in these very vulnerable states, except I got to live, and like this, it makes me sad. Yeah. It does, because it makes me sad for her, but it makes me sad that she even knows that we were in this like purgatory together and that I got to leave. Or, of course she would want me to get better. Like, of course she wouldn't be like, come to hell with me. But like, but I don't know. I think that there's, I was sensing in her life years before she died. I think she knew that she was sick. Yeah. And I think that she was getting, there was these moments of like deep nostalgia that she would get where we would be visiting her, my brother and my niece and nephew, and she would like be outside of the circle. And this is not uncommon for my mother. Yeah. But there was another layer of like, and people towards, whatever, she was 72, so she wasn't that old, but like
sort of like taking in.
Yeah. And like, I'm not going to be interacting with that in a little while. Yeah. And that's got to be hard.
Wow. It's a really powerful story.
Yeah, I feel like there's some, again, it's like, it feels significant in my life. clearly. I'm still like in it, but I feel the significance of it. Again, it's like maybe it just exists in this part and story in my life, but there is, because it was such a painful experience, there is a desire to like, can this be, because we always want to make stories and we want to make use of our stories. I'm like, can anyone use this? Like, does anyone need this? Like,
I mean, I think you're going to be using it whether you're aware of it or not.
Yeah.
Probably. It's such a huge, it's like, and also just to point out how Sarah Rule showed up and just sort of, have you ever written her a letter?
Okay. So when I started to get better, I started to write her a letter, and it is a long letter.
I bet.
It was meant to be first a little note.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, I'm going to write a lot. And then my mom started dying as I was writing it. So then the letter just kept on evolving and evolving and evolving. And I was like, I'm not going to send this letter to her. This is just for me.
Yeah. Fair.
But then I did reach out to her, and she is I just sent her like a quick little love letter. And she instantly wrote back.
Oh my
those people who are just like, you assume are just so busy. And but she was so eager to be like, thank you. I'm so sorry that you went through that. And we did exchange some like doctor information.
Oh, great.
Which I haven't actually like looked into, but plan to. Yeah. But she, she wrote a lot about like, oh man, if I was an actor and this happened to me, what would I do?
Yeah.
And like, so I'm just kind of like, there are actors who this is happening to.
And maybe they could share their story.
Yeah, maybe you want to write a play about someone with a damaged seventh cranial nerve. Yeah, no, but I did do a Sarah Rule play like years ago. So there's also this like, not like a regional production of the Vibrator play. So there's,
sure.
When you do a play of the playwright, you're like, we're connected now, even if you're not.
I mean, it's such an interesting thing. Like you do kind of like you are connected.
Yeah.
Like they don't necessarily even have to be aware of it.
Totally.
But yeah, that's how, but to your point, like, I think your instinct or this part of you that is feeling called to share this experience, I just kept thinking about the impact of Sarah Rule's book on you during this journey. And I'm like, well, there's your answer. Like that's like, if you're called to do something like that, whatever it looks like, like maybe you're writing the play. I don't know.
I know.
Who knows?
Well,
but there's something like,
I think there is the weird thing that I'm performing. Not weird. We don't know what it is, but it is about. Okay, I'm not going to describe the concept of it right now because it's still very much like in development, but it is a lot using this experience, and in a less direct way. But I do feel like it is the thing that I know that actually like cracked me open, and cracked life and time, and like the thing that we were talking about before about feeling time in your body in a different way.
Yes.
It was as though when I was recovering, all the revelations I was having about like the identity and my mother and like not being able to, like all of these things that were viscerally felt in the body felt like they had been true forever, and I just hadn't seen them. But it was this experience that like cracked them open, but I was like, oh my God, it's always been this way. And it's like a ghostly feeling. Like
I just got goosebumps.
Yeah, me too. Like I was like, it's always, and I just felt like I was on drugs. Like I was like, it's always been here. Like I've always been,
just haven't been able to hear it.
Yeah,
until now.
And I like want to get back to being able to hear it again. And I think in this, just like wrapping up this recovery thing, I think the place that I'm in now is way messier and I'm still like, it's the, like, I was back. So my mom passed away. Like I got sick, Christmas 2022. Then my mom passed away in July, one day after her birthday. And then so I was back to work a week after my mom passed away, and I was not ready.
Holy moly.
I was not ready, but I was like, needed money And
I hate capitalism.
My friends did a GoFundMe when I got sick.
Oh my gosh.
And like instantly got a lot of money that I did. And I was like, oh my God, everyone's so amazing. Everyone's beautiful. Like that they just like people I didn't know.
Yeah.
It was like this gratitude. And then I was like, oh shit, like I have to fucking get back to work now. And went back to work before I was ready, but made everyone believe that I was ready because I had to.
Yeah.
And then it was just like hustling. It was like literally back to the old ways.
Yes.
And that's what I'm now being like, okay, I've done a year in the old ways, a year plus, year and a half.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to now say like, that's not norm. That can't be the norm.
Right.
And now is like the messy, like backpedaling of like, can we learn something new again? Like,
yeah. Yeah.
So I just want to be honest about that non-linear, like clunky shit that's happening right now. That I still feel like awake and alive and like wanting to help people, but the way I'm wanting to help people is like being like, this is clunky as fuck.
Yeah. I think that is helpful.
Yeah.
And that's actually the help that we need to hear because I think again, like we are looking for the fix. We want it to get fixed tomorrow. We're like, what's it going to take to feel better?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, sometimes life that's just not, you're not going to feel better.
Yeah.
And so the question is, when those days come, how we move through them, right? And how we feel and be okay with the intensity of the pain if it's there. And how do we build capacity for that? How do you shape your life so that you can have capacity for that? Right. This is a nonlinear journey.
Yeah.
And that we're all of us. I don't care how healed you think you are. I don't care if you think you've done all the things in the world. Like, I think, maybe if we move to an ashram, we could reach enlightenment, right? But like in this reality, in this late stage capitalism world that we live in, I just want to give us all the grace in the world to be like, we're navigating this as best as we can.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's not linear and that whatever comes up is for your own good, I think is like the biggest lesson I'm hearing from your story is that we spend time avoiding pain, but when the pain comes, we finally hear all the things that we weren't hearing before because we're unfortunately having to feel that pain. But the only way to heal it is to feel it.
It's true.
You got to go through it to grow through it.
We do.
I'm full of these. I got a bunch.
I love it. It's so true.
Yeah.
I know. It's trying to make sense of the excruciating nerve pain I felt is like hard to wrap my...
It's so hard.
But it's just like, that's just physical, you know? It's like, that's just one aspect of something. And the fact is like, I did get through it.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back there. But it was so, like the clarity of like, gotta get through the day, gotta get through this moment.
And the huge lessons that like, you can't control other people. Yeah. We can't save anybody else except ourselves.
And
we
even
can't.
that.
We cannot, I know, right? I think everyone is capable of it, whether we choose to do it or not, that's up to the person. Yeah. But I think everybody is capable of doing this work. Yeah. Like there's as a fellow actor, right? I don't think there's any experience within the whole of human experience that if you put my body in the right given circumstances, I could do fucking anything, good or bad. We're all capable of it. Yeah. And using acting to get to explore those parts that are more crunchy and like difficult can be so cathartic and healing because we let ourselves feel the things that are actually in us. Yeah. So, what an incredible, harrowing, and really beautiful and vulnerable story. Thank you for sharing all of this. I'm so glad to share with our audience. Yeah. And I guess my last question would be, any final gems or thoughts that you want to make sure someone out there knows, maybe someone out there who is like a young version of yourself that you would like to tell them something that you've learned that you want them to take forward. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to just talk to the younger version of myself.
Okay.
I don't know, actually. That's even harder. Because, like, I was going to say, I've been to Al-Anon meetings, and I would be like,
go to Al-Anon.
Go to Al-Anon. Because that, I started to go more, I was like, I'm going to really go right before I got sick. And it foundationally prepared me for some of the concepts that I would be faced with.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's perfect. You know, a lot of it is like in a lot of like, you know, Ram Dass, he often says the word perfect, which is weird to me.
Right.
Coming from being a woman. Like, you never want to hear that word.
Yeah.
But there was all this perfection in my mom's death and in the like lessons. I was like, oh, it's all perfect. It kept coming to my mind. But yeah, I guess I would say to my younger self to like lean in. Like, I think I was always like one foot in the like helping myself and then like one foot out.
Yeah.
And I want to say to like lean into those things, but that's not right for every person, and it happens in time. So there's almost no advice that I would give myself.
Maybe the advice is everything is in its own divine timing.
Yeah.
And wherever you're at is okay. Feel your feelings.
Yeah. And to just not, I mean, the advice I give myself now is like, who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
Like, who cares? Like, if you're, it's like there's so much like, as an actor, you're just thinking about the way other people, like in this industry, not as an actor, but in the business part.
Yeah.
It's like, part of me is like, well, what if they think this of me? And what if they think, like, I'm just trying to be like, who the fuck cares? Yeah. Like, it doesn't actually matter.
It doesn't.
So.
It's all a lie.
It kind of is.
It's all a lie. These like things that we are taught are pretty or not pretty. It's all made up.
Yeah.
It's all made up.
And it's like beyond pretty and unpretty. Right. It's like, I mean, for me, it's all, again, this is the last question, but it's been a total like, oh, I've said this is my worth. Yeah. I've made that connection. Yeah. That is deeply within me. And so it's really about unearthing that and like, what is that? And so I'm in an unearthing, like, what is my worth? And also like having lots of patience with that question is really the advice. And also just hang out with people that make you feel good.
That's great advice.